Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Will Baggett with Executive Image, the industry leader in professional presence training, committed to helping you look the part and act the part to become the part. Visit us on the web at www.execimage.org.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on social media at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Coach Jeremiah Tiffin. Coach Tiffin is the head volleyball coach at University of North Dakota. Greetings, Jeremiah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ty. Appreciate being here.
Now, Coach, you just finished your first season as the head coach. Of course, you have experience. You were head coach at Hill College, which is a 2-year college down in Texas. And then you were the head coach at the NAIA school, Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio. In your background, you've coached club volleyball, college club volleyball. You've been an assistant in college, and now you are Division I head coach. And I guess altogether it's a little over a decade coaching college volleyball. I'm happy to have you on. Of course, you and I go back years from the times playing intramural flag football.
That's right, yep.
To helping me at the AVCA convention, being my top general there, helping us put on a good convention there. So there's a big history there. I'm really happy to have you on. I think the reason why I want to have you on is you were named the head coach this past May, first practice August 10th, first game August 30th. So it came at you like a train and you just got to hop on and get going. Tell me about that. I guess it was 20 days there before the first game of getting together with the girls. You're the head coach. Here's how we're going to do this. Let's go. Tell me about that little 20-day period between your first practice and your first game.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. I had never had a practice where I could really put in kind of the system that I wanted to do until we came into preseason in August. And so it was, what are our priorities? What do we need to accomplish? Because we have 20 days. And we didn't have that off season to put everything in. And so the important thing with us was we had to make sure that everybody was on the same page. And so whenever we put in a concept, we wanted to make sure that they understood the why. This is why we're doing it this way. This is what we expect of you when we do it, and this is what we would like to see you improve in. And I think that once we had everybody on the same page with that, because some things were new from what they had done before, and especially with the new staff, that was something that they were also getting used to. They had never had Steve, my assistant coach, work with them before. And so once we got everybody on the same page, I thought we progressed really well. And we started out the season 3-1, which is a nice way to start. But it was just important to just communicate everything that we wanted to do and why we were doing it and have everybody buy in. And once that happened, I thought we were able to get our message across.
Right, which is excellent. I've never been a head coach, but I imagine leadership is leadership, but there probably are differences and commonalities when you talk about being a head coach at a 2-year institution, at an NAIA institution, and now at a Division I institution. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you found in terms of what was different, what's the same, what have you had to adjust in terms of being a head coach?
Yeah, I think one of the big differences is like when you're at that 2-year school, and when I was at my NAIA school, I had always had great support. But I was always typically by myself. I had a part-time assistant at those 2 institutions. And so I was usually doing everything, off-court stuff, business stuff, and communication with all the players and doing all the position groups. Well, now we have a full staff. We have everything in place. And so it becomes a matter of delegating, but still being able to communicate and having those good relationships with all your players. Because now, as a head coach, you don't spend as much time with those players as I did at other schools when I was at the 2-year of the NAIA. And so it was important for me to really come in and, okay, I can delegate that and make sure the staff has the good relationship with the players, but still finding time for me to go in and take a few minutes, go, hey, how's life? How's the family? And I thought that was one of the things that I tried to keep the same from my last couple schools, but still it was still different because we had a more of a staff to be able to help out in that area. And so that was kind of my priority right there is figuring out how we wanted to get our relationships going, making sure that was a priority, because that was something I wanted to make sure that we continued from my previous schools, was having strong relationships and having the players understand that yes, winning is important, but it's it's about more than winning. It's about how you grow. It's about how you do in the classroom. It's about how you represent the team and the community and the school. And so I thought we did a really good job of that. But that was one of the big things for us this year that I found was the same at my previous 2 stops.
Well, that's interesting, Jeremiah. You talk about delegation, and now you have a full staff. What I know about you is that you're very technical in terms of getting the girls in position, how they do things, the X's and O's of volleyball. And from my experience with football coaches, a guy might be a great quarterbacks coach, great O-line coach. He becomes a coordinator. He's probably good at calling plays, but when he's the head coach, he's not as hands-on as he likes to be. And tell me about how delegation plays into that, how you've made that adjustment now that you're a head coach and you have a full staff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a blessing to have a full staff that they can take the reins on certain things. And so when I know what my weaknesses are, I've looked at them, I've talked to other coaches, I've looked at them on film. I know that there's areas that I can be a better coach at, or I have more experience in other areas. And so I can pass those off and find coaches that are good in those areas, which is what we did. But I feel like I'm strong in some areas, and I don't want to give those areas away. I still want to stay hands-on. And so, for example, this year, I was a setter when I played in college. I've coached our setters the last few years in my previous schools. I think I've done a good job of that, and that's kind of the position group that I stayed in. But understanding that there's going to be times when I can't oversee every single thing. And so I gave our assistants responsibility. So, hey, if you see something, because we're all coaching the same thing, yes, you can say something, but when we break up, I'm going to make sure that I still take, these position groups. And it's just understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are. I wouldn't go and coach my worst thing just because of pride. I need to go coach what I do the best and find other people to use their strengths and make our players the best. And so it was an interesting way to do it, but it worked out really well this year that I could still coach groups that I had been successful with and still find position groups that needed help in other areas and have our other coaches slide into those and make them successful.
Right. It works out for you, like Coach Saban with the corners, right?
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
So you get the job in May, and you know that your habit, based on your experience, is to basically take care of everything with part-time help. Now you know you have full-time help. Tell me about how you went about breaking that habit, and through the season, when the pressure's on, we resort to what our habits are. Tell me about how you were able to adjust to that during the season when the pressure's on, games start and practice is going, girls come up, you have your challenges and celebrations. Tell me about that part.
I think that goes to the amount of work you put in beforehand. And so we had a staff member, Erin, that had stayed on from the previous staff, and she's an alum, and she had played in this program, and she's fantastic with what she does. And so I put in the work to look and see what kind of assistant coach I wanted to bring in and build that relationship with my assistant, Steve. And so once you build those relationships with your assistant coaches, it makes it a lot easier to go, okay, I trust you, you can take care of this, and I can work on this, and then the other coach can work on this, and not just have all that pressure piling in on one place. And so we can spread it out. And we're all still involved with everything. I'm not just handing things off. I still oversee what I need to oversee. But building those relationships with the staff as well is important, because if you just come into the door and it's, hey, how's it going, and never spend any time talking with them about what's going on in their lives and having those communications, well, then your staff's not going to get along either. And then when the pressure from the season comes in, it's going to disintegrate. And we all know that as a staff, you can't have a bad practice. Players sometimes can have bad practices. It's going to happen. There's going to be stuff going on that they're not able to separate, personal life to volleyball life. But as a staff, we can't have a bad practice. And so having that communication with them, that relationship, it's easier to go, okay, hey, I trust you to do this because we've talked about it. I trust you to do this because we spent time in a meeting about it. And so that was a really a good blessing for me to have a great staff this year.
Right. And then the preparation that comes along with that. The previous head coach leaves in April, and there's a period between April and when you got hired as the head coach. Tell me about what happens during that period. Are you allowed to talk to the girls? Were you in communication with the sport administrator or with the athletics director? Obviously, you're preparing to possibly interview for the job, but tell me about that aspect, how you handle things at home, I guess, right? In terms of you don't really know what's happening. The girls, the volleyball, the players are probably up in the air, don't know what's happening. Tell me about how you manage that part from your standpoint.
Yeah, so I was the associate head coach, and I came here in January. So I'd only been here for a few months, and so the first thing is making sure that your house is taken care of. And so keeping my wife informed, and we have a young child and another one on the way, and so it was important to make sure that she understands everything that's going on. And then I thought it was important to really be in constant communication with our SWA and in extension of that, our athletic director. And we have a really good SWA and a really good athletic director. And so it was easy for me to communicate with them and go, hey, this is how we're going to do things right now. While we look for this new head coach and what's going on here, let me communicate to the players, let me do this in cooperation with what you're doing. And so that was important for me to get in and just be constant communication and keep them abreast of everything, because it's their program as much as it is the players too. And so once I did that, I thought that made everything flow really smoothly. The girls had all their questions answered. None of them were really freaking out. I reached out to all of the kids that were already committed and was able to talk with them over the phone and calm any fears that they had, and we didn't lose any kids in the transition. They were all here. And so just being able to communicate with all of that, and then once I was named the head coach, I can still have those communications. I still talk with the SWA nonstop, once a week, meetings monthly, making sure she's on board with everything that we're doing. And because we couldn't do any volleyball stuff with the players, we just kept the communication as much as we could in the meetings throughout the summer, so that when we did hit the court in August, it was just an extension of the relationships that we'd already built.
Right. So then you become the head coach. You have communication with the athletic director, SWA. Tell me about through the season, postseason evaluation, if you've even had that already. And the communication is different now, right? You're in charge of the program. Tell me about that aspect, where you are now.
Yeah, I have had more communication with during season with SWA/athletic director than I did at my previous schools, and that's not a good thing and it's not a bad thing. It's a thing, and I really like it because it just keeps everybody informed. And we actually had our SWA travel with us to a tournament this year. We had a plane ticket for her, and we brought her out because we wanted her to see exactly what we do when we travel. This is how we want our program now. And so that way she's involved and she sees things, not just hearing it from me or getting like the end of season survey from the players, but she sees it firsthand. And so just continuing to keep her involved in the program, and we've already had our end of season evaluation. That came up very well. But once again, it's not just, hey, here's like what they said. It's here's the overall thing of what we're seeing. Here's what the players are saying to us. Let's look and see if there's any issues and what we can make it better. And it's not just, well, this is our team and we're not going to let anybody touch it. It's let's work in collaboration with people that have experience with this, either from inside or from outside, and make it better. And it's not just conversations with our SWA. I've had conversations with our football coach. I've had conversations with our hockey coaches and soccer coaches and saying, what are you doing to be successful? How can we take that into our program? And it's just that constant communication, that constant learning from other people and taking feedback and understanding that there's no one way to run your program. It's what's the right way for this year to make your program better. And I think we're doing a good job of that.
Right. Learning, constantly learning, right? And
absolutely.
As a good leader, you're always learning. I wonder about your leadership style in terms of over the past few months, what you've learned about yourself as a person, what you learned about your leadership style, and what you learned about running an organization over the past few months.
I think it's one of those things that you already know internally, but it feels good to see it in action again. Is you can only be yourself when you run something. The previous head coach was successful, and he did things a very different way than I did. And I think I learned right away, I can't just continue what he did, because what he did worked for him, but I have to do what I do because it's worked for me. And I think I've had some success with my style. And so it's just understanding this is what I'm going to do, and I can't let anger or I can't let a situation dictate what I'm going to do. I have to take a step back and do, okay, what would Jeremiah Tiffin do? And stay true to what I've learned, what's been successful for me in the past, and then what I've just been able to integrate in our program. That's why we write. That's why one of my big things is writing things down when I've been exposed to them. And so that's why I'm eternally grateful to you for letting me help you out at the AVCA, because I got to interact with other coaches in another sport and see how they run their program. And so we've taken some football concepts and put them into volleyball, and it's worked out really well for us. And so just writing those things down, so when the season's going on and you've got 16 different things in your head, you can open up your notebook and go, okay, here's some things that might work for us. Oh yeah, we haven't done that yet. Let's get that into our program. So just understanding where I've come from and the experiences that I've gone through, and just not throwing those away, but leaning on those, that helps me be myself, which I think was the most important thing I got. You just can't be somebody else. You have to be yourself and take ownership of what you do. And that, to me, is what makes you successful.
Right. Be who you are, right? Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jeremiah, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Well, Ty, once again, thank you for having me on, and thank you again. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, ever since you walked up to me at the Student Union building and said, let's play some football together. And so that's been a wonderful relationship for these past 15 years, and I'm looking forward to learning more from you.
Yes, sir. We'll keep it up. That was Coach Jeremiah Tiffin. He's the head volleyball coach at University of North Dakota. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.